No one ever expects to walk into a classroom and see their dad behind the desk. But that's exactly what happened to 13-year-old Sophie Miller on a rainy Monday morning. The bell had just rung. Her hoodie was soaked, and all she wanted was to slump into her usual seat at the back of the room. Instead, she froze mid-step. "Dad?" she asked, blinking as if the fluorescent lights had played a trick on her. Mr. Miller, no, Dad, stood awkwardly at the front of the class, one hand clutching a dry erase marker, the other shoved in his pocket like it might keep him from sprinting out the door. "Morning, class," he said, eyes darting to Sophie then quickly away. "I'm Mr. Miller. I'll be your temporary homeroom and social studies teacher." Dead silence. Then snickers. Sophie turned a violent shade of red and wished the floor would open up and swallow her whole. Her best friend Jen mouthed, "What is happening?" Sophie had no answer. At dinner the night before, her dad had said he was trying something new. But this wasn't new, it was nuclear. Just 2 weeks ago, he was regional sales director at Ironworks Construction. Then came the layoffs. Downsized. Corporate restructuring, they'd said. He hadn't spoken much after that. Sophie's mom, Lauren, had picked up extra shifts at the hospital. Tensions brewed in whispered arguments and closed-door meetings. So when the school board called with a desperate need for a long-term sub, her dad had said yes, probably half out of boredom, half out of pride. But Sophie wasn't ready to be that kid, the teacher's kid. As the day wore on, things only got worse. Her dad called roll with perfect pronunciation except for hers. "Sophia Miller," he said like it was any other name. She didn't correct him. When he asked a question about the Great Depression, every hand went up. Except hers. He smiled at everyone. Except her. After school, Sophie walked 10 paces ahead of him. "Sophie?" he called after her. "Can we talk?" She didn't answer. That night, her mom tried to smooth things over. "It's temporary," she said, "until Mr. Kravitz is back." But Mr. Kravitz was in chemo. Everyone knew he wouldn't be back anytime soon. Meanwhile, her dad tried to play it cool. He asked if she needed help with homework. She said no, then locked her door. What none of them knew, not yet, was that this substitute job would soon unravel everything. The fragile balance they'd clung to, the secrets they'd buried, and the one event that would rip their family wide open. Because the very next morning, Sophie wasn't the only one surprised by who walked through that door. Standing at the front of the class, clutching a visitor badge and a thick folder, was someone who recognized Mr. Miller instantly, and didn't hesitate to say it in front of 30 stunned 7th graders. "Mr. Miller? Or should I say Bill Hawthorne? You remember me?" And just like that, the entire classroom and Sophie's world spun off its axis. He froze. His grip on the marker faltered, and it clattered to the floor like a bullet in a church. Sophie turned in her seat, heart thudding, staring at the woman at the front of the class. She was tall, in her late 30s maybe, and dressed like someone who didn't expect to stay long. Jeans, blazer, no umbrella. Her hair was damp, curling at the edges. Her voice, though, that was steady, measured. "You don't remember me?" she asked again, eyes narrowing. "I'm Hannah Benton, from Crestview." The name meant nothing to the students, but Sophie could see something shift in her father's expression. Recognition, then regret. "Class," he said hoarsely. "Why don't you take an early recess? I'll walk you down." The room exploded in confusion and laughter. Kids scrambled for their bags, and Sophie sat frozen. Her dad shot her a look. "Go." She didn't. Not until Jen tugged her arm, whispering, "What the hell is going on?" They left the room last. Sophie cast one final glance over her shoulder, and saw her father close the door behind them, sealing himself in with the stranger. By lunch, the rumors had spread. That woman was a detective. No, she was a lawyer. She was his ex, his daughter. The truth was none of that. Not yet. Sophie waited until dinner to ask. Her dad said nothing at first, just pushed mashed potatoes around his plate. "She's someone from a long time ago," he said finally. "Work-related. We had a disagreement." Her mom looked up sharply from the sink. "Bill," she said. "What does that mean?" He didn't answer. Sophie slammed her fork down. You embarrassed me in front of everyone. She knew your name, not Miller, the other one. Why do you have two names? Silence. He stood up, grabbed his plate. I'll eat in the garage. The door slammed behind him. Lauren rubbed her temples. I didn't even know he had a garage plate. What the hell is going on? Over the next few days, things unraveled fast. Sophie's classmates started treating her differently. Not cruel, worse. Like they were curious. Like she was hiding something delicious. Her dad, meanwhile, seemed distracted. Jumping at sounds. Taking calls outside. Staying late at school for grading. And then, one night, Sophie saw the file. Her dad had left his laptop open on the kitchen table. She wasn't snooping. She just wanted water. But the document open on the screen made her pause. It was titled, Crestview HR Complaint, B. Hawthorne. The first line read, Incident Report Number 14, Allegations of Employee Misconduct, 2012. Her eyes flew over the text, skipping chunks, until one line jumped out. Unauthorized bonus allocations, falsified project hours, terminated under NDA. Sophie's hand shook as she reached for the mouse. What had her father done? She scrolled again, then stopped. There, at the bottom of the page, was a name she recognized. Hannah Benton, witness and complainant. Sophie's breath caught. Her dad had lied. Not just about his name, but everything. And when she looked up, he was standing in the doorway, watching her read. No expression. No words. Just a slow, quiet voice. That file wasn't meant for you. Then came the sound of the front door opening. And the voice of her mom calling out, panicked, urgent, Bill. You need to see this. Someone just left an envelope on our porch. It's addressed to Sophie. He didn't move. Sophie stood up slowly, every muscle tight, her eyes darting between her dad and the laptop. What's in that file, Dad? She whispered. He didn't answer. Instead, he turned and walked toward the front door where Lauren stood holding a plain manila envelope, the name Sophie Miller printed neatly in thick black ink. No postage. No return address. Just dropped on their porch like a time bomb. Lauren's hands trembled as she passed it to him. Should we call the police? She asked, her voice sharp with worry. No, Bill said too quickly. It's probably nothing. Sophie grabbed the envelope before he could stop her. It has my name on it, she said. You don't get to open it first. With both her parents watching, she tore it open. Inside was a stack of photographs. Grainy, black and white, like old security footage. At first glance, they looked meaningless: offices, corridors, doorways. Then Sophie's fingers froze. The next photo showed a man, her dad, or rather Bill Hawthorne, arguing with a woman in a glass-walled office. Another showed him standing alone in the same room, stuffing something into a briefcase. The third showed him walking out of the building. Timestamped, June 12, 2012. Is this you? She asked, holding the picture out. Her dad stared at it, his face unreadable. Yes, he said finally. It's me. And that woman? Sophie pressed. Is that Hannah Benton? Yes. So, what did you do? She asked. Tell me the truth. All of it. He sighed and sat down heavily on the armrest of the couch, rubbing his temples. I didn't steal anything, he said slowly. But I let others do it. I was in over my head. Crestview was bleeding money and I looked the other way when someone cooked the books. I didn't want to lose my job. When the auditors came, Hannah was the one who spoke up. She had proof. I was fired and signed an NDA in exchange for a clean break. Lauren was staring at him like he was a stranger. You told me they laid you off. You said it was budget cuts. I had a wife and a baby, he said. I couldn't tell you I was fired for failing to stop fraud. So I changed my name legally. Moved us here. Started over. And no one knew? Lauren asked, voice cold. No one until now. Bill nodded. Except her. He pointed to the photographs. And now apparently someone else. Sophie looked again at the last picture in the stack, one that hadn't registered the first time. This one was different. Taken much more recently. It showed her, sitting in her classroom, her dad at the board. Someone had been watching them. Why now, she asked. Why is someone doing this? I don't know, he admitted. But I'm going to find out. That night, Sophie couldn't sleep. Her mind spun with images, her dad's double life, the envelope, the photographs. Around 2 a.m., she got up for water and noticed her dad's study light still on. She patted over quietly, planning to ask if he was okay. But the moment she cracked the door, she saw something that chilled her. Her dad wasn't working. He was burning the photos. One by one. In a metal bin. What are you doing? She asked, stepping inside. He jumped, startled. They were a threat, he said. I'm protecting you. You're hiding again, she shot back. That's what this is. He reached for her shoulder. Soft, but she pulled away. I'm not a kid anymore. You lied to me, to Mom. What else aren't you telling us? And then, like a delayed curse, the phone rang. The landline. No one used it anymore. Her mom answered down the hall. Hello? A pause. Then her voice shaking called out, Bill. It's her. Hannah Benton. She says she needs to meet. Tonight. They met at the edge of town, in a 24-hour diner that smelled like burnt coffee and old secrets. Bill hadn't said much during the drive, just gripped the wheel like it was the only thing keeping him grounded. Lauren insisted on coming too. If we're doing this, she'd said, we're doing it together. Sophie sat behind them in the booth now, arms crossed, as Hannah Benton sipped her coffee and finally looked up. You should have left well enough alone, she said softly. But I guess people like you never do. Bill didn't flinch. What do you want? Hannah let out a low chuckle. You think this is blackmail? I'm not after your money. I want your daughter to know who you are. Sophie's heart kicked against her ribs. Why me? She asked. Why now? Because I thought your dad had changed, Hannah said. I saw the job listing at the school and recognized the name. Curiosity got the better of me. But then I saw the class roster, saw your name, and I knew. He never told you. He never told anyone. Told me what? Sophie asked, her voice trembling. Hannah looked at Bill. Are you going to say it, or should I? Bill leaned back, eyes shut. When he finally spoke, his voice was like gravel. There was more to it than I told you. I didn't just get fired. I took the fall for someone else. The CFO, Peter Lorne. He was skimming off construction projects. I knew. I let him. And then I got caught. Hannah found the reports. She went to the board. But they didn't want a scandal. So they offered me a deal. Take the blame quietly or everyone goes down. I signed the NDA. Disappeared. Hannah interrupted. That's not all of it. Peter Lorne was my fiancé. Lauren sucked in a breath. Oh my God. We were going to be married. Hannah continued. And when I exposed him, he blamed me. Said I was trying to ruin him. Your dad didn't say a word in my defense. Not one. I lost my job. My reputation. And him? He got a new name and a fresh start. Bill whispered. I didn't know they blackballed you. You didn't ask. She snapped. You just vanished. Sophie stood up suddenly. So what, you came back to wreck our lives too? Hannah's expression softened. No, I came back to make peace with what happened. But then, I saw you, and I couldn't walk away. You deserve to know who raised you. Bill looked stricken. I was trying to protect my family. By lying to them? Hannah countered. That's not protection, Bill. That's cowardice. A heavy silence followed. Then Lauren stood, pulling Sophie gently toward the door. Come on. We've heard enough. Wait, Hannah said. She reached into her bag and pulled out another envelope. I found something recently. Peter kept it in a storage unit. I think you should see it. She slid it across the table toward Bill. He didn't touch it. Do what you want with it. But if you're smart, you'll read it before someone else does. Back at home, the envelope sat on the table for hours. No one spoke. Around midnight, Sophie came downstairs to get a drink and saw her dad opening it, hands shaking. Inside were more photos, but also documents. Bank statements, a ledger, a forged signature, his, and a letter, a confession, from Peter Lorne, dated just weeks earlier. Sophie read the last lines over her dad's shoulder. I've lived with guilt for over a decade. Bill never knew I kept this. He was the only decent one among us, and I let him burn for it. Sophie looked at her dad. So you were innocent. He looked back at her, haunted. Not innocent, just not the guiltiest. And then a loud knock rattled the front door. 3 sharp raps. Bill stood, breath caught. Lauren whispered, Who would come this late? Sophie edged toward the window. Outside, silhouetted against the porch light, stood a police officer. Behind him, 2 more. The door creaked open slow like a horror movie. But there were no monsters. Just 3 officers in navy uniforms, their faces unreadable. The tallest one stepped forward, glancing down at a folder in his hand before lifting his eyes to Bill. "Mr. William Hawthorne?" Bill didn't deny it. He just nodded once. "You're under investigation for financial fraud and obstruction of justice related to the Crestview case. We need you to come with us." Lauren's hand shot out, grabbing Bill's arm. "You can't be serious. That was over a decade ago. He already paid for that. He lost his job. Ma'am," the officer said gently. "We have new evidence. A sworn affidavit from a former CFO implicating him and naming multiple shell accounts tied to William Hawthorne's name. This is a formal investigation. We're not placing him under arrest tonight, but we are serving him with a court summons, and we strongly advise legal counsel." The words hit like a hammer. Bill accepted the envelope, hands barely steady. Sophie watched, silent, as her father, the man who taught her how to ride a bike, make perfect French toast, and fix a leaky sink, stood in the hallway looking more fragile than she'd ever seen. "I didn't know about the accounts," he murmured. "I swear I didn't touch a cent." The officer offered a sad smile. "That's for a judge to decide." When they left, silence swallowed the house. Bill sat on the bottom stair, head in his hands. Lauren paced. Sophie stood frozen, unsure what hurt more, the knock or what came after. "What are we going to do?" Lauren asked finally, looking to her husband like he might have an answer. He didn't. "Not tonight. I need to find Hannah," he said suddenly. "If Peter gave her that envelope, maybe he gave her more. Maybe she is something that clears me completely." "You want help from the woman who just dropped a bomb on our lives?" Lauren asked, stunned. "She didn't do this," Sophie said quietly. "She just lit the fuse. The match was already there." That night, no one slept. Sophie lay awake staring at the ceiling, her head a mess of thoughts she didn't know how to organize. She kept remembering that line, "He was the only decent one among us." If that was true, why didn't he speak up? Why disappear instead of fight? And why was someone still trying to bury him now? The next morning, she skipped school. She didn't tell anyone. Just walked out the front door while her mom was on the phone with a lawyer and her dad was hunched over at the kitchen table rereading the court summons. She knew where Hannah was staying. It wasn't hard to figure out, small town, only 2 motels, and she'd seen the car in the school parking lot before. Room 206. Sophie knocked. Hannah opened it a crack, looked surprised, but stepped back. "Did he send you?" "No," Sophie said. "I came on my own." Hannah nodded once. "Come in." Inside was a mess of papers, open boxes, photos, sticky notes. Evidence, maybe? Maybe answers. "Why now?" Sophie asked. "Why after all this time?" Hannah took a long breath. "Because Peter died last month. Heart attack. Alone. No obituary. No apology. Just that letter. He knew I'd kept everything. And he didn't want to take the blame to the grave. So now what?" Sophie asked. "You give this to the court?" "No," Hannah said, sitting down. "I give it to you." She pulled a file from her briefcase and slid it across the table. Sophie hesitated, then opened it. Inside were more bank records, emails, signed memos. But at the bottom was a photograph. A grainy image of a young man in a construction vest, Bill. Beside him, smiling, was another man. But it wasn't Peter Lorne. Sophie blinked. "Who is this?" Hannah didn't speak at first. Then, in a voice like ice, "That's your father's best friend. His business partner. The one who moved here 6 months before you did. The one who helped him get that teaching job when everything else dried up." "Mr. Thompson?" Sophie whispered, stunned. "Our neighbor." "Yeah," Hannah said. "Turns out this rabbit hole? It's deeper than either of us thought." Sophie stared at the photo, her brain fighting to reconcile the face she saw every week at Sunday cookouts, school fundraisers, the man who gave out full-size candy bars on Halloween, Mr. Thompson. Her dad's old friend. Her neighbor. The man who once told her, "You've got your father's grit." Now she wasn't sure if that was a compliment or a warning. "He moved here after us," Sophie whispered. "How could he have helped Dad get the job?" Hannah stood, walking toward the window. "He didn't follow you," she said. "You followed him." Sophie's mouth went dry. "You think he planned this?" "I think he knew your dad wouldn't stay down forever. And when you're hiding in plain sight, it helps to have someone on the inside." She pulled another file from her bag, this one thinner. Peter's storage unit had more than just confessions. There were tax records. Fake invoices. Signatures forged to match your dad's. "Why would Thompson do that?" Sophie asked. Hannah turned. "Because the Crestview money never really disappeared. It was moved. Hidden. Then cleaned. And your dad's name was the perfect cover." That night, Sophie showed her parents everything. The photos. The records. The signed memos implicating Thompson in a deeper scheme. Her dad sat pale, disbelief turning to rage. He told me to keep quiet. Said if I walked away clean, I could start over. Said he was doing the same. He was starting over, Lauren snapped. With your name on the books. They debated all night. What to do? How to do it? The hearing was a week away. The evidence Hannah provided could clear Bill if it didn't get buried first. The next morning, Sophie walked into school like a soldier marching into battle. Eyes followed her down the hallway. She'd become a local headline overnight. Teacher's secret past uncovered. Her classmates didn't speak to her. Not because they hated her. Because they didn't know what to say. And then at lunch she saw him. Mr. Thompson. Laughing with the other teachers in the staff lounge. Like nothing had changed. Like he didn't have a past buried in forged checks and false friendships. Sophie didn't hesitate. She walked in, dropped the photo on the table in front of him, and said loud enough for every teacher to hear, "You'll want to call your lawyer." He blinked. Laughed. "Excuse me. You framed my dad," she said. "And now we have proof." The laughter stopped. Chairs scraped. Mr. Thompson stood, grabbing the photo, eyes darting across the image. "Where did you get this?" "From the woman your partner left behind." Sophie stepped closer. "You should have stayed gone." By nightfall, it was done. Her father filed the documents with the district attorney. Hannah provided an official statement. The case shifted focus, now zeroed in on Thompson and the missing money. Within 2 days, Thompson's house was searched. He was suspended from his position. And for the first time in years, Bill Hawthorne walked into a courtroom with his real name on display and nothing left to hide. The trial would take months. But the truth? That was already out. Sophie had stopped hiding. Her family had stopped running. And the secrets that once bound them had been burned to ash. In the last scene, months later, Sophie sat in a different classroom, this time not as a student, but as a guest speaker. "Sometimes the people closest to us carry the heaviest secrets," she told the class. "But truth has a way of finding daylight. You just have to be brave enough to open the door." As the students clapped, Sophie looked out the window where her dad was waiting by the car, the air finally clear between them. But just as she grabbed her bag, her phone buzzed. A blocked number. A single text, "You think it's over. It's not. P.